You don't get what you wish for, you don't get what you hope for, you don't even get what you dream about. You get what you're willing to fight for. Every morning the sun rises on two types of people: those who talk about what they want, and those who bleed for it. One group fantasizes about success. The other builds it brick by brick while the world sleeps. Desire is cheap. Everybody wants the good life. Everybody wants freedom, recognition, wealth, peace, legacy. But not everybody wants to go through the war required to earn it. Because make no mistake, success is a war, and the battlefield isn't out there somewhere. It's inside you. It's your doubt, your fear, your laziness, your distractions. It's every voice in your head that says you can't. That voice that whispers, take a break, that tells you you're tired. You deserve to rest. But here's the truth. The dream doesn't care how you feel today. The dream doesn't care about your excuses, your pain, or your past. It only responds to persistence. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times. Before the light turned on, 1,000 times he stared into darkness and then refused to quit. Henry Ford went broke 5 times before building an empire that changed the world. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Lincoln lost elections for 30 years before becoming one of history's greatest leaders. You think they didn't feel tired? You think they didn't have doubt? They just decided that quitting was not an option. That's what separates dreamers from doers, not talent. Not luck, resolve. You don't need a perfect plan. You need relentless drive. You don't need all the answers. You need the courage to keep asking the right questions when everything's falling apart. Because the world rewards those who endure. You see, people want the crown, but they don't want the battle scars. They want the trophy, but not the training. They want the spotlight, but not the sweat. They want the glory, but not the grind. You've got to stop wishing for things to get easier and start wishing to become stronger. Because when you level up your strength, your discipline, your focus, the same obstacles that once crushed you become your foundation. Most people are spectators in their own lives. They scroll. They envy. They compare. They talk about what they would do if only they had more time, more money, more support. But they never realize the fight isn't about resources. It's about resourcefulness. And Carnegie didn't start with money. Jobs didn't start with investors. Oprah didn't start with privilege. They started with conviction. And conviction is a weapon that can tear through any circumstance. You've got to wake up and understand. Your comfort zone is killing you. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you trade your potential for pleasure. Every time you hit snooze, you train your body to procrastinate on your destiny. Every time you complain, you give your power away. So if you want more, stop running from the resistance. Run toward it. Because resistance is not the enemy. It's the gym where your greatness is built. Every rep of pain, every set of discipline, every second you stay focused while others quit, that's the training ground of champions. There's a moment when you'll want to quit. When the weight feels too heavy, the rejection too sharp, the progress too slow. That's the moment the average person stops. But you are not average. You're here because something inside you refuses to settle. That's not ego. That's your calling reminding you that you were built for more. You've got to let that calling burn so hot inside of you that it scares your excuses away. You've got to become obsessed, not with the result, but with the process. Because if you can fall in love with the grind, success becomes inevitable. The world doesn't need another dreamer. It needs another fighter. Someone who understands that the reward is not for the one who starts the race, when it's for the one who finishes. You've got to have the guts to go through hell and come out stronger. You've got to believe that no matter what happens, no matter who doubts you, no matter how far you fall, and you will rise, because greatness isn't given, it's forged. In the fire of failure, in the storm of rejection, in the silence of loneliness, that's where character is built. That's where destiny is decided. You don't get what you want, you get what you're willing to fight for. When you change your mindset, you change your reality. Most people think success starts with opportunity, and it doesn't. It starts with perspective. Because if your mind is small, no opportunity is big enough. You could hand $1 billion idea to a person who thinks like a victim, and they'll find a way to lose it. But give a sliver of hope to someone who thinks like a warrior, they'll turn it into an empire. That's why mindset isn't just the first step. It's the foundation. The battlefield is the mind. You don't conquer the world until you conquer yourself. Every thought you entertain is a seed, and your life is the harvest. Plant doubt, reap hesitation. Plant fear, reap paralysis. Plant faith, reap mountains that move. When you wake up in the morning, your mind starts talking, before your feet even touch the ground. It's too early. You're too tired. You're not ready. And most people listen. They let their emotions lead their actions. But the greats, they flip the script. They tell their emotions where to go. They command the day before the day commands them. Discipline is born in that silence between impulse and decision. It's in that second when you could quit and choose not to. Think about it. The same water that softens a potato hardens an egg. It's not the environment. It's the composition. Life's pressure reveals what you're made of. Some people break under heat. Others become something stronger. And here's the truth. The fight for your dream will expose who you are. You'll discover if you really want it, or if you just like the idea of it. Because when life hits you, and it will, comfort will whisper, "Go back." Fear will whisper, "You're not good enough." But the mind trained for battle will whisper, "One more round." You've got to develop that inner grit, that internal voice that refuses to surrender. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. That's you recognizing that greatness isn't out there waiting to be found. It's in you waiting to be unleashed, but clarity is the compass. Because you can't fight effectively if you don't know what you're fighting for. Most people chase what looks good, not what feels right. They run after money, fame, validation, and when they get it, they still feel empty. Why? Because success without purpose is just a prettier version of failure. Clarity gives meaning to your grind. It gives direction to your discipline. Without it, you'll spend years climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. So you've got to get quiet. You've got to strip away the noise. Turn off the world long enough to hear your own soul speak. Because deep down it already knows the truth. What you were built for, what you were called to do. Don't chase trends. Chase truth. Don't chase applause. Chase alignment. The world will tell you to play it safe, to think small, to settle. But visionaries, the Edisons, the Disneys, the Jobs, they didn't listen. They saw what others couldn't see, and they believed when others didn't believe. That's clarity. It's not seeing every step. It's seeing the next step clearly enough to take it with conviction. Once you have that, purpose becomes fuel. Purpose is what makes you wake up early and stay up late. Purpose is what makes you show up even when nobody claps. Purpose makes the pain worth it, because purpose gives pain a reason to exist. Without it, pain just feels cruel. With it, pain becomes the sculptor that carves you into your destiny. And once you have that purpose, once you know what your life is about, discipline becomes love. Not punishment, love. Because when you love something, you protect it. You nurture it. You give everything for it. You don't need motivation when you have purpose. Motivation fades. Purpose endures. Motivation gets you started. Purpose keeps you going when motivation dies. And when discipline meets purpose, it creates momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that turns effort into excellence. It's the wind behind the sail of every great life. But momentum doesn't come from intensity. It comes from consistency. It's not about how hard you hit once. It's about how long you can keep swinging when your arms are tired and your vision is blurry. That's why the fight isn't about talent. It's about endurance. The race doesn't go to the fastest. It goes to the one who refuses to stop running. So stop asking, when will it happen? And start asking, how long am I willing to fight? The truth is, the moment you decide that quitting isn't an option, that's when you become unstoppable. That's when the universe starts moving in your favor, aligning opportunities, revealing doors you didn't even know existed. Because when you fight for something long enough, you earn the right to receive it. The world bends to the will of those who don't back down. The question isn't whether you can have it. The question is that will you fight long enough, hard enough, consistently enough to deserve it? Vision is the spark that ignites movement. It's the light in the distance that keeps you walking through the dark. Without vision, you drift. Without vision, discipline becomes punishment instead of purpose. Vision is what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. Every great transformation began in the unseen. Before there was a light bulb, there was Edison's idea. Before there was a car, there was Ford's vision. Before there was Disney World, there was a dream drawn on a napkin. The world we live in was built by people who had the courage to see what didn't exist yet, and to fight for it until it did. You can't let the world shrink your imagination, because the moment you let practicality replace possibility, you've started dying while you're still breathing. Most people lose their dream because they stop seeing it. They let the noise of doubt drown out the whisper of vision. They stop believing they can build what they see. But vision isn't about sight, it's about foresight. It's about seeing beyond the present pain, beyond the current struggle, beyond the setback you're in right now. It's about seeing who you could become if you refuse to quit. When life knocks you down, and it will, that's when vision matters most. Because when your body wants to give up, your vision reminds you why you started. It pulls you forward when everything else is pushing you back. But here's the secret. The path to that vision won't look like the picture in your head. It will twist. It will break. It will demand a version of you that doesn't exist yet. And that's exactly the point. The dream isn't there to give you comfort. It's there to force your evolution. You've got to become adaptable. The plan will change, the people will change, the timing will change, but the purpose must stay the same. The ones who win aren't the ones with perfect plans. They're the ones who can pivot without losing direction. The oak tree didn't grow because the wind was gentle. It grew because it learned to bend without breaking. That's adaptability. The strength to endure transformation without losing identity. You can't control the storm, but you can control the sail. You can't predict the wind, but you can decide your direction. That's the mindset of the relentless. They don't curse the storm and they use it. They take the chaos, the uncertainty, the pain, and they turn it into propulsion. Because resilience isn't built in the sunshine. It's forged in the storm. Every setback is a seed. Every failure is a teacher. Every delay is an invitation to grow stronger. The problem is, most people quit before the lesson finishes teaching. They interpret struggle as a sign they're on the wrong path. But in truth, struggle is often the confirmation that you're exactly where you need to be. The obstacle is the path. When steel is forged, it's not forged in comfort. It's forged in fire. It's the heat, the pressure, the pounding that give it strength. The same is true for you. Your challenges are not punishment. They're preparation. Life is molding you for the weight of the blessing you've been asking for. That's why you've got to embrace the grind. Don't pray for lighter loads. Build stronger shoulders. Don't ask for an easier path. Ask for sharper vision. Because when you're built for the battle, no challenge can break you. Resilience is not about never falling. It's about always rising. It's the art of getting back up faster, stronger, wiser each time. It's standing in the ashes of yesterday's pain and saying, "You didn't destroy me, you defined me." Think about every person who ever changed the world. Every visionary, every innovator, every revolutionary. They all had one thing in common. They refused to die in the dark. They refused to let a season of struggle convince them their purpose was over. They rose, again and again and again, because success isn't a straight climb, it's a cycle of falling. Rising, adjusting, and fighting again. And if you can learn to love that cycle, to find strength in the storm, to find faith in the fall, to find clarity in the chaos, then you become unstoppable. Adaptability is evolution in motion. When others freeze, you flow. When others panic, you pivot. You become water, taking the shape of whatever's in front of you but never losing your essence. That's what greatness is. It's not rigidity, it's resilience. It's not perfection, it's persistence. You've got to train your mind to see opportunity inside opposition. You've got to condition your spirit to look at pressure and say, "This is my training." Because every hardship you survive is a new weapon in your arsenal. When life closes one door, break through another wall. When it throws you to the ground, stand up with fire in your eyes. Because that's what fighters do. They don't retreat. They recalibrate. And here's the beautiful truth. Every time you rise, you inspire someone else to rise too. Someone is watching you right now, silently drawing strength from your perseverance. You might not know their name, but they're waiting for your example. So don't quit. Don't dim your light. Because the moment you rise, you give others permission to rise with you. That's the real power of resilience. It multiplies. It doesn't just build your life. It builds lives around you. It transforms pain into purpose, chaos into clarity, struggle into story. And that story, your story, might be the spark that lights someone else's fire. Mastery isn't born from talent. It's carved from time. It's the quiet repetition that no one sees. The midnight grind, the early mornings, the 1,000 tiny decisions that stack up into greatness. Everyone wants to master their craft, but few are willing to be humbled by it first. Because mastery demands surrender. You have to be willing to be bad before you're good, and invisible before you're undeniable. You've got to embrace the process, not the applause. The great ones, the Da Vincis, the Einsteins, the Kobe Bryants, they weren't obsessed with validation. They were obsessed with evolution. They chased improvement like it was oxygen. Every failure, every mistake, every missed shot. It wasn't defeat. It was data, feedback, proof that they were still growing. That's what separates the master from the mediocre. The ability to learn without ego, to study the loss instead of escaping it, to dissect the pain instead of numbing it, because self-education isn't optional anymore, it's survival. The world is evolving faster than ever, and those who refuse to learn will be left behind. The new wealth isn't money, it's knowledge. The new power isn't control, it's competence. You've got to make yourself a lifelong student of the game. Read when others scroll. Reflect when others complain. Study your craft so deeply that it becomes your language. That's how you earn mastery. Through obsession, through humility, through repetition that borders on madness. But understand this, learning is not memorizing. It's becoming. The goal isn't to gather information. It's to transform through revelation. To let the lessons you absorb change how you think, how you move, how you lead. Every challenge life throws your way is a classroom. Every failure is a lecture. Every person you meet is a textbook, teaching you something about patience, purpose, or perspective. But most people skip class. They ignore the lesson because they're too busy complaining about the test. The masters don't complain about the test. They study for it while everyone else is whining about how unfair it is. They understand that pressure isn't punishment. It's preparation. The diamond doesn't curse the earth for the weight above it. It endures the pressure because it knows what it's becoming. You've got to have that same conviction. The understanding that struggle isn't stealing your dream and it's shaping it. Every setback is sandpaper, refining your edges, sharpening your skills, toughening your soul. And once you realize that, once you learn to find value in every challenge, you become dangerous. Because nothing can break someone who's decided to learn from everything. Pain becomes your teacher. Rejection becomes your redirection. Failure becomes your foundation. But here's the thing. Mastery doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters most better. Focus is the currency of mastery. You can't master 10 things at once. You've got to commit. You've got to choose one lane and go so deep into it that you redefine the map for everyone else. Michelangelo didn't paint everything. He mastered the ceiling. Tesla didn't build empires, he built inventions. When you focus, you amplify your power. When you scatter your attention, you dilute your destiny. The average person lives in distraction. The exceptional person lives in discipline. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's divine. It's the bridge between intention and manifestation. You see, everybody wants to reach the mountaintop, but few want to climb. They want results without the resistance. But the climb is what makes the summit mean something. You've got to be willing to fall in love with the climb, with the process, with the days when progress is invisible and faith is your only evidence. Because those are the days that build your foundation. There's a reason most people give up too soon. They can't handle the silence between planting and harvest. They don't realize that growth happens underground, unseen, unheard. The roots always grow before the fruit shows. So don't curse the waiting season. That's where your strength is built. That's where your character is tested. That's where your future self is being shaped. Every day you show up, when no one claps, when no one sees, you're building the kind of momentum that can't be stopped. Because the world can ignore your effort, but it can't ignore your results. Mastery is earned when you've done the work long enough for the work to start doing something to you. And once you've mastered yourself, you stop chasing success, you attract it. Because success is not something you pursue, it's something you become. When you live with focus, when you move with purpose, when you learn with humility, you become magnetic. Opportunities find you. People trust you. The world starts responding to your energy. That's not luck. That's alignment. And alignment, true alignment, only happens when what you do, what you say, and what you believe are all pulling in the same direction, that's when your spirit stops fighting itself. That's when your days stop feeling forced. That's when your grind starts to feel like gratitude, because that's the real destination. Not riches, not fame, not applause, but peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you gave everything. The kind that says, I fought for this. I bled for this. I became something greater for this. And when you reach that place, that quiet knowing inside you, you realize the fight was never about what you wanted to get. It was about who you were meant to become. Gratitude is the oxygen of perseverance. It's what keeps the fire alive when the fuel runs out. Because no matter how fierce your ambition, no matter how powerful your dream, if you lose gratitude, you lose your grounding. Gratitude doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. It reminds you that even the smallest step forward is a victory, that every breath is borrowed time, that every obstacle overcome is evidence that you were chosen for more. You see, gratitude transforms your grind. It changes your focus from I have to I get to. You don't have to work hard, March. You get to build something meaningful. You don't have to show up. You get to leave your mark. You don't have to fight. You get to prove that you can. Every morning you wake up with another chance to fight for your dream. That's a blessing. The world owes you nothing, but every time you choose to rise, you owe the world your best. When you can look at your struggle and say, thank you for making me stronger. When you can look at the failure and say, thank you for teaching me. When you can look at the delay and say, thank you for shaping me. That's when your power multiplies. Gratitude turns the ordinary into sacred. It gives meaning to the meaningless. It makes the mundane magnificent. Because when you stop taking life for granted, every moment becomes fuel for greatness. You can't build legacy with bitterness in your heart. You can't create a masterpiece with resentment in your hands. You have to clear the space, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to make room for greatness. That's why gratitude and growth are twins. One feeds the other. Gratitude keeps you humble enough to learn, and growth keeps you strong enough to give. Think about it. Every great leader, every visionary, every change maker, they didn't just take, they gave. They poured themselves out into something greater than themselves. And that's what legacy really is. Planting seeds in soil you may never see bloom. Legacy isn't about statues or fame. It's about impact. It's about who you lift, who you teach, who you inspire along the way. Because the fight you're fighting right now, the struggle, the sacrifice, the grind, it's not just for you. It's for everyone who's watching. Everyone who needs to know it's possible. You don't just fight for your dream. You fight for the next generation's permission to dream. There's a little boy, a little girl, a broken man, a forgotten woman out there watching your fight, drawing strength from your survival. They're saying if they can rise from that, maybe I can too. And that's the moment your pain turns into power. That's the moment your story stops being a struggle and becomes a source. The world doesn't remember people for how easy their path was. It remembers them for how many they lifted while they walked it. When you fight for your dream, when you keep going after everyone else stops, when you turn pain into purpose, you're not just surviving. You're building legacy. And legacy is built one act of courage at a time, one decision at a time, one moment when you said, I'll keep going instead of I'm done. Because the truth is, greatness is never accidental. It's intentional. It's chosen. It's protected, so guard your dream like your life depends on it, because it does. Protect your energy. Protect your focus. Protect your peace. Don't let small minds talk you out of big visions. Don't let temporary pain make you forget permanent purpose. Every time you want to quit, remember this. The pain you feel today is proof that you're still in the fight. And the fight, that's where transformation lives. When you reach the end of your days, you won't be proud of what you avoided. You'll be proud of what you endured. You'll look back and realize every scar was a sentence in your story. Every failure was a foundation for the next victory. And maybe, just maybe, you'll understand that you never really lost. You were just being prepared to lead, prepared to inspire, prepared to rise beyond everything that tried to break you. Because you don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to fight for. So fight for your purpose, fight for your peace, fight for your growth, fight for your dream, fight for your becoming. And when the world asks you how you did it, you'll say, I didn't stop when it got hard. I didn't quit when it got quiet. I fought until I became the person who deserved it. That's what this life is about. Not comfort, not convenience. Becoming. Becoming unstoppable, unbreakable, unshakable, becoming the kind of soul that refuses to die in the waiting. Becoming a living example of what happens. When faith meets fire, you were born to rise, to overcome, to build something eternal out of temporary struggle. So wake up, stand tall, look at the world with that unshakable fire in your eyes and remind it gently, fiercely. You don't get what you want, you get what you're willing to fight for. And you were born to fight for everything. There's a point when words stop being motivation and start becoming truth. This is that point. Because after all the struggle, all the pain, all the late nights and lonely mornings, you realize something powerful. The fight was never against the world. It was always against the weak version of yourself that tried to talk you out of becoming who you were meant to be. That version of you, the one that settles, that waits, that hesitates, it dies every time you take one more step toward your destiny. Every time you choose courage over comfort. Every time you move when fear says stay, you bury the old you and awaken something divine. So this is your rebirth. Right here, right now, not in some future moment when you make it. Now, in the struggle, in the climb, in the fight. Because greatness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock politely. It arrives in silence, disguised as discipline. It hides in your 4 a.m. alarm. It waits in that last rep when your arms are shaking. It speaks through that quiet voice that says, keep going, keep believing, keep building. That's the sound of destiny, whispering your name. And you've got to answer it with action. Because talk doesn't move mountains. Courage does. Dreams don't manifest because you wish. They manifest because you work. Every sacrifice you've made, every doubt you've faced, every time you've been overlooked or underestimated, it all adds up. The universe is keeping receipts, and when the time comes, it pays back those who stayed the course with interest. You're not behind. You're becoming. You're not lost. You're learning. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. The process is not punishment, and it's proof that you're still in the game. And maybe you've fallen 1,000 times. Maybe you've been rejected, betrayed, forgotten. Good. Let it hurt. Let it teach you how to rise, because every fall is fuel. Every scar is a signature that says, I survived what was meant to destroy me, and I came back stronger. You're not fighting for the life you wish you had. You're fighting for the life you deserve. You're fighting for peace in your soul, power in your purpose, pride in your reflection. And when you stand at the end of your road, breath heavy, body scarred, heart full, and you'll look back and understand, the fight was the blessing. The struggle was the teacher. The pain was the proof that you were alive and evolving, because the truth is, life doesn't give crowns to those who wait. It gives them to those who endure, to those who rise when they could have rested, to those who fought not because it was easy, but because it was right. So stand tall, stand proud, you're not done. You're not finished. You're just getting started. Look yourself in the mirror and say it out loud. I'm not here to wish. I'm not here to hope. I'm here to fight for my family, for my future, for my freedom. Because you don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to fight for. And if you fight long enough, hard enough, faithfully enough, the world won't be able to ignore you. They'll ask, how did you do it? And you'll smile. Because the answer was never found in the spotlight. It was born in the shadows. It was carved in the silence. It was earned through every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, every moment you chose to rise. So this is your moment, your awakening, your proof that the fire inside you was never meant to go out. Let the world see what happens when a soul refuses to surrender. Let them see what happens when a dreamer becomes a doer. Let them see what happens when an ordinary person makes an extraordinary decision to fight for vision, for purpose, for destiny. Because that's the truth the world needs to remember. You don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to fight for. And some of us, we were born to fight forever.